All right, guys, welcome back to part 2 of our Making Our Space Wolves series. So this is pretty exciting. So in this one, now we've got everything set up. We've got our IK rig. We've got that built in here. So now we can do all of this kind of cool stuff. We've got our we've got all of our heads picked out. We've got this guy here. Got this one right here. We've got our armor set up. We've got our helmets. Which we've got both helmets there. And we've also, we've got another head there. This one we're just going to delete because it was just so morphed and everything. But we were able to pull this cool looking one from it. So now with all of these, and also this one I think I'm going to get rid of, the Gabriel, just because he looks too clean. So I think I'm going to drop him, and we're just going to make a new save on this one. There we go. So now we should be all set up, and we've got all of our weapons. So the next big step that we're going to want to get into is we're going to want to start taking our standard like Blood Angels looking one, and we're going to want to, I'm going to turn on screencasting. There we go. And we're going to want to take this, and we're going to get it all set up to get our colors correct. And just to real quick make sure we all know what page we are on. I'm going to pull up our reference image again, and with this we're going to go into Photoshop, and we're going to actually start tweaking the colors to try to get the cool Space Wolves color. So that should be pretty awesome. I am looking forward to it. And then after we get through all of that, then we'll start pulling some of the fur off of these guys, and we'll do some recoloring on that to get what we're looking for. And I'm gonna grab these. I'm gonna zoom in on these. I'm gonna grab these bone bits, and we're gonna use those to kind of get some of like this stuff going. You know, some of the ones that they have on their cod pieces. Get all that looking good. So if you go in the source files that we're using for all these guys, we've got these really cool custom kit files folder, and this has all of them. But we're just going to use the ones, you know, appropriate to what we're going with. So we're just going to go back to our Space Marine. And now's the time where we should really decide. We're going to probably go with the rare, because it's got the trim. And the trim looks really nice with the Space Wolves, because that way we'll be able to do the blue trim, and we'll easily be able to do like the yellow shoulder pad and the red shoulder pad. So that should be pretty cool. So we're going to do the rare power armor. Not common, power armor rare. Yep, power armor rare diffuse. So in here, there it is. So that's the PSD file for it. So we're just gonna pull that in. Take just a moment to get Photoshop pulled up. And we will also probably, it's a little hard to tell what color the Space Wolf's eyes are supposed to be, but I'll probably do a yellow just to kind of complement the gold and all of that stuff. So that should work pretty well. All right, and here we are. So now we've got everything pulled up right here. And what's really cool, so it's got it all set up as hue and saturation layers. So each one of these we can use to make our colors, and then it's even got the emblems separate. So that should do us some good favors for getting it all worked out. I'm going to go back into the main page. I'm just gonna take the Space Wolves image and just drag it in here. The reason that we're doing that is because we are going to use this, despite how low res the actual color is and everything, we're just going to use that to make our, to kind of make a nice little, there we go. We're just gonna use this brush here, make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Get the opacity up to full. So we've got that color there. We're gonna do a dark one. And we're gonna do a really real light one there. Cool. So with that way we'll have the colors just on this separate layer. We can make it invisible when we need to, but we can get the colors worked out to kind of match. Actually, while I'm doing that, let's just go in and get color for the yellow, and let's get a that red looks a little too bright, so let me get a nice vivid dark red there. Cool, and that should get us in good order for being able to kind of move it out of the way here. So first step, we're just going to select the hue and saturation, and I just double clicked on it to be able to pull it up, and we're just going to slide it around just to try to get the same sort of color. Just about there is good. We'll keep the saturation somewhat high, bring the lightness up, and it's just going to be kind of a matter of tweaking it. A lot of times it's a lot between the saturation and the lightness. Like, you'll raise up the lightness a little bit, and that way you can kind of see if you need the saturation a little bit better. But overall, I feel like that's getting pretty close. I might come back and look at it again and be like, oh no, that's not right. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Just gonna hide the those two there, because we're gonna be trying to match these guys here. So we're gonna try to match the shoulder insignias and everything on there. So we don't need the stock ones that are on there. So next, in this case, we're just going to take we're just going to literally on the trim, it's going to be exactly the same color. So we're going to actually copy the trim colors. So we're just going to remember the hue 202, saturation 21, lightness plus 35. 202, 21 plus 35. And we'll just go over to this one. For some reason, it's not just letting me. Normally it lets me just type those in, but for some reason, was it plus 35 or plus 25? 35, okay. There we go. So now we've got those exactly matched to one another. With the shoulders are going to be kind of special in this case, where one shoulder, their left, our right, is going to be the yellow, and then the other one's going to actually be the design. So with the design, that might end up requiring a little bit of tweaking, but we can, first we're just going to make it the base colors. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to duplicate it, and we're going to, with the mask selected here, we're going to just brush it with that same brush. I'm going to make it a little bigger because this is not precise work. Just going to block it out on that one. And there we go. And block it out on that one. There we go. So now we've got one for one shoulder and then one for the other shoulder. Awesome. So we might end up going back in. I might find out, oh, they're actually inverted or something. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it though. So we're going to take, this is the right side shoulder, so this is going to be the yellow one. And turn up the saturation, bring down the lightness a little bit. There we go. Now we're starting to see kind of the color that we're looking for. And let's see. That's pretty good. It's almost a little bit. Oh, too far. Yeah, I feel like we're getting there. Yeah, it's a little bit sunnier than the sample color that I used, but when checking it against the reference image, I think that looks a little better. So we've got that, and then this one, we're just gonna get that kind of red, bring that lightness way down. And that's pretty close right there. I'm gonna see how it looks. Maybe just nudge it a little bit more orange. Yeah, just like 4. That way it's not too orange. Get that saturation up a little more. Space Wolves are very, very bright. Yeah, something like that looks pretty good. And then we are just going to save this. And in here, we're going to make a new folder. Let's call it Space Wolves. And eventually, you know, we'll probably end up doing, I'm going to call this one Bloodclaw, Power Armor Rare Diffuse. That way, because we will probably end up having one for our leader, we might end up, we'll at least do some different markings on a few of them. So, so this way we've got this one set up. We're gonna make our swatches invisible, save it, and then we're just gonna want to save it as a PNG. You can also use a JPEG. I like using the PNG because it'll store transparency, which will be nice for like stuff like the hair and things. If there's any transparency in it, should make it look good. So now instead of using the Bloodclaw or the Blood Ravens one, we're gonna use Space Wolves PNG. There we go. It looks very bright. It almost makes me want to. Man, it is close though. They are just bright looking guys. So you know what? I might actually stick with just how we have it right there. honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about that color. It's bright, but they're bright, so at least off of the reference image, that's pretty good. Okay, and so I did a little bit of looking around, and I found these here for all like the pack markings and stuff. From the references from what we have, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what they have. It looks like it's kind of something akin to this here, or maybe this one, since they're all going to be like part of the same pack. And I'm going to do the yellow and red instead of the black and red. I think I'm going to go with basically just this one in the center. We'll just do something like that, because that should look pretty good, and should be pretty easy to get a looking. Zang. Really quick and easy. When you're doing yours, make whatever pack markings you want to. So we're going to take this one, we're going to duplicate it again, and we're going to make a folder for each of them. And I'm just going to call this, since it's for like their pack markings, oh boy. There we go. I'm just going to call it pack shoulder red. And then we're going to do another one here. Pack shoulder yellow. Take this guy, put it in there. And what we can do now, this should work pretty easily. We're just going to make another mask on the actual folder. And we're also going to make a mask on this folder. The yellow is going to be in the center. So first I'm going to actually hit G. I hit G to go into the paint bucket, but we'll have to switch it over to paint bucket. We're going to just turn that mask black. And we are going to real quick read off the colors. For the yellow, 46, 78, 24. 46, 78, 24. That looks right. And so on the red one, I'm just going to do the polygonal lasso tool. Just going to click right here, click down right here, click right about there, click there to complete it. So there we go. So now we're going to use the paint bucket by hitting G one more time. And with the black selected, we're just going to click once. That'll get rid of it on that one. Oh, actually, I'm going to hit V just to select, take that selection, move it down. There we go. That way the point's right at the end there. Perfect. Now we're going to make this one black. And on the yellow, I'm going to select that, hit X to invert it, make it yellow. And we're just going to, we're just going to feather it 0.5 just to get rid of some of that jaggedness on both of them. 0.5. Yeah, there we go. Actually, you can still see a little bit of that jaggedness. So let's do just one, because you don't want that. There we go. That looks pretty good. All right. So then I'm just going to do Control S to save it. And then we're going to go in, save as. And we're just going to save it as a PNG again. There we go. And now when we go in here, you look and you're like, oh, why isn't it working? Well, here's why. It doesn't actually reload it every time. So we just need to go to this one here and just select it with, go to the UV image editor, pick the specific, image that you're dealing with at the time. Go image, reload image. There it is. So now he's got that cool little marking. And that's looking pretty good. I think I'm pretty happy with that one. And the other one that we're going to need is going to be the actual little, the little Space Wolves emblem. So for that one, I had it up here for a minute. There we go. Perfect. I'm just going to right click, copy image. Go into Photoshop, Control V, paste it. Oh, geez. Didn't mean to do that. We're gonna go up top here, new layer, Control V. Wonder if it's enormous. No, see, this is a problem that sometimes that's a PNG file there. And sometimes if you just like straight up copy a PNG, it instead of keeping all of the transparency data, it just gets rid of it. So we're gonna just save that image and then we'll bring it in. And I'm just gonna name it Space Wolves Insignia. We'll have that right there. Now this, if I remember correctly, yeah, there we go. And I'm just rearranging it a little bit. Just trying to get it, get it right where it needs to be. There we go. And one thing that you can kind of see is the shoulder itself is a lot less less wide than it is when it's unwrapped on the texture file. So I'm just going to take this. This is really kind of guesswork. After having done this for a while, it seems like I feel like I've got a little bit of an eye for it, but you're still just kind of, I'm basically just eyeballing it. Just hit enter there. There we go. And so for this one, with, it depends on the kind of models that you're using. With these Dawn of War 2 models, they've got like a lot of grunge on them. There's a lot of like paint chipping and everything. So I don't want, two main things that I want to kind of avoid with A, I don't want it to be perfectly solid or anything, because that's going to look kind of weird. And the other big thing is that we don't want it to just be a super, like 100% clean. So you can find a ton of different Photoshop brushes around. I'm just going to use, I have a couple around that will usually work. And I'm just going to make another mask here. Turn down the opacity a little bit. Make this, make that a little, there we go. And I'm just going to switch it to black. See, that is too much. There we go. Awesome. All right. Yeah, that's too much. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Almost bring it down even more. And that's still too opaque though. We're just going to take it down like that. And I'm just going to do a couple little little spots along the edge, just to kind of make sure that that looks kind of good. And then we're going to make it nice and big. A lot of times I like kind of just going right on the edge like that. There we go. Now it just looks a little bit worn. And I might just grab one other. Oh, moving stuff around too much. And I'm just going to grab one other one. We're going to make it a little smaller. I'm just doing a little clicking around just to raise up that opacity too, because I think this one's supposed to be a lot more subtle. There we go. And that way at least it kind of looks like it's, you know, got the same kind of wear that the other one, that the everything else does. We could also do that on the shoulder, but then you'd also have to duplicate it to, you know, if you do it on the yellow, then you need to duplicate it to the red. I'm not as worried about that because that's still getting the wear from the color, the kind of coloration setup that they already did. So that's still, I think that'll be just fine. We're gonna save it again as a PNG. And replace it. Reload it one more time. There we go. And not bad. I think the size and everything looks pretty decent, and it's readable from a good distance, which, you know, since they're miniatures, they're going to be pretty far away. So cool. So we've got that there. Now we just need to do the same thing with both helmets, both that helmet and this helmet. And we also are going to need to do it to his backpack, which should not be too bad. And really, as I'm kind of looking at it, all of the Space Wolves, including, I'm pretty sure this guy's their, their captain. He really honestly has the same kind of stuff, just a little bit more ornate looking. If we wanted, maybe we could take the colors of his one shoulder and swap them, or do a different pack marking. But I think they're all supposed to have the same pack marking because they're, you know, in the same pack. So I could invert the colors though. Maybe we'll do something like that, just at least do something to kind of set them apart. But we're gonna go in now and we're going to do the same thing for the head, and we'll walk through that together, just so that you guys kind of see what's going on. And this one should be Assault Marine Head Diffuse, yeah. So Assault Marine Head Diffuse. Just gonna double click on that one. There we go. This one should be honestly really, really smooth and quick. So all we're doing in this one is we're just copying over the colors. So it's kind of just a matter of memorizing 202, 21, 35. And we get back over here. 202, 21, 35. Awesome. And his eyes are still green. I'm going to, because I'm not a fan of that. We're going to actually match that yellow. We're probably going to brighten it up a little bit, but I want to make sure I'm on the same basic color, which is going to be, we're actually going to do one thing that I think is kind of cool. 46, 78, 24. We're just going to go in here. Down here, we're going to make a new adjustment layer. hue and saturation. And as you start loading up on these layers, it gets really annoying when you forget, like I just did. 46, 78, 24. 46, 78, 24. Make sure it's colorized. 46, 78, 24. There it is. Cool. There we go. So we actually adjusted the color. Now what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to use the paint bucket, make it all black, because we're just going to do it to the eyes. I'm going to bring it on top. And this is one thing, I think it's a kind of a nice looking effect, is we're just going to use a pretty hard and small brush here. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to take the regular lasso. We're just going to trace this out here. That might end up being too pixel perfect. Let's see. That's not bad. I think that actually just might work. We're just going to do the same over here real quick. Just going to trace out his eye. Make it white. And you can see there's a little bit where there's kind of that bleed over. I'm just going to take a really small brush. We're going to lower the hardness a little bit. And just inch it over on there. Unless it won't do it for me. Might need a bigger brush. Sometimes when you have the hardness up a certain amount. Now it's being difficult. Let's see here. That is weird. I don't know why it's doing that now. Oh, there's the problem. Somehow I accidentally set it to color dodge, which there's no color on. There's no color on a mask. So that is not going to work. There we go. Just going to kind of do a little bit of that. And there's not too much anywhere else, so that should be good. It looks a little strong there at first. You don't want to feather it too much because you don't want to lose. You don't want it to kind of start coloring everything else. But now we're just going to duplicate this layer real quick. Actually, before I do that, I want to take this here. I'm just going to raise the brightness a little bit. Since it's actually his eyes, it'll kind of give it that sort of like, oh, it's glowing kind of effect, you know? And so once we duplicate it here, we're just going to make everything black again. And I'm going to take a brush. This is a pretty small sort of light thing, but I think it gives it a lot of extra sort of added effect if you do this. We're going to do a larger brush with a lower hardness. I'm going to drop down the opacity. Just going to do a little bit of, and turn it white. And we're just going to do a little bit of something like that. There we go. And I think when you do that, it just gives it kind of a glow, kind of a cooler sort of effect. So we're going to just, instead of saving this over our like, you know, custom files, we're going to go back into Space Wolves. And we're just going to do the same thing here. Blood. Claw Assault Marine head. Save it. Now in here, we'll go back to the node editor. Blood Claw Assault Marine head. Ooh. Oh, you know what the problem is? We didn't save it as a PNG. And it seems to be having a problem with it being a PSD. I have had it work as a PSD, but it doesn't seem to want to right now. Which is just as well, because you don't really... I really like to work as though it's using the exact image file that we're actually going to be using. So there we go. And you can see it's got a little bit of that glow, which I think looks kind of nice. So, you know, do what you want with your guys, but I tend to think that that adds a little dimension, and when you're like really far away, it kind of just helps them pop a little bit, like kind of makes their eyes look pretty cool. So I'm gonna speed through doing his backpack and also doing the standard head, and then I will be back. Alright, so now we've got everything done here that we need to do. The weapons are good for the moment. I will probably... I mean... Sometimes I've seen see on these guys, their chain swords look... I mean, they look different. They're kind of a different design, but... I think this guy might have sort of the yellow and black kind of design on his. I'm not going to worry about that with the chain swords. It's kind of, we're going to have a lot of other sorts of embellishments to kind of work with on these guys, you know, so I'm not going to worry too much about that in this case. Instead, we're just going to use some other stuff to really kind of set them apart and kind of clarify that, yeah, these are Space Wolves. So, what we're going to do first, we're going to save real quick, and we'll just use this guy kind of as our base. The main things that I want to do is I want to get this little tail set up for the regular helmet, so that way it'll look a little bit more Space Wolvesy. We're going to also do like a sash, kind of like a fur, you know. And we'll also probably do the other big thing. I might do one of these guys, and then we'll do the bone on top, and the bone as like the little like codpiece sort of guy. And that should be, and we'll kind of use an arrangement of those to really, you know, set the different guys apart here. So first things, let's just go ahead and start with the bone's gonna be definitely the easiest. So we're just gonna select that and zoom in there. Cool. And I'm just gonna duplicate it, P, to separate by selection. There we go, and now we've got that as its own thing. I'm gonna, once again, we're gonna move it to its own layer. Now we've got that one all set. Just space and origin, we're gonna set the origin to the geometry, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. We're gonna scale it up a little bit. And we're just gonna arrange it here. Just try to get it pretty even there. So that's looking pretty cool. I think it, for the most part, kind of matches that sort of look there. So we've got that. That's honestly super simple. We're gonna name this Skull codpiece. And now we want to actually parent it, so that way we can do like when this moves, then the codpiece will move with it. So we're just going to look at the bone. And that's BIP01. We could do a whole armature and everything, but in this case, since it's just going to be connected to a single bone, there's really no reason to. So we're just going to choose our skeleton, then BIP01, and then we'll go through the and I'm just rotating it real quick. And we're just going to pop it back into place. We might need to look at the, oh, went too far. Kind of inside of him. It looks like it got a little warped, which is kind of inconvenient on this one, but, there we go. And now, yeah. So it'll just kind of rotate with his, like, chest there. And then when the other parts kind of move, it won't. So that should be pretty good. This one here, then we're also going to do, I'm going to do a slightly bigger one for this bit up here. And I might, let's see if there's something cool that we have access to, maybe with the weapons that we could use. Honestly, I'm going to duplicate the axe. And we're going to just go to that real quick. We're going to remove all of its parenting. Got all off because of it, but shouldn't be too bad to get it sorted back out. There we go. What I'm gonna do, we're gonna take some of this extra stuff and just delete it off of there. That takes off the entire handle, which we don't necessarily want. But we're going to do a little tweaking with it. So we'll go into the UV image editor. I don't want that grip on there. Because to me, it just doesn't, Power X common, there it is. In this kind of situation, it just doesn't work. So we're just going to, oop, I've got there we go. Proportional editing, turn that off. And just set it to Y. There we go. That way it looks more like just like a pole. We're going to select vertices. There we go. Bring that up. Cool. And that way it'll give it a little bit more kind of visual interest to it. Gonna set the origin to the geometry. We're just gonna kind of plant that up on top of his up on top of his backpack. And we don't want to do too much tweaking until we get it set up off of the right bone, which in this case is going to be spine 3. that to that same layer. Where is it? Spine 3. There we go. Rotate on the Y, -90. Rotate on the Z, 90. Bring it up over here. Get it into position. But that way it looks pretty mounted. Awesome. And you know, let's see. It might be up. I think that's up a little on the high side. Also, I want it to be a little more angled. So we're going to take that, bring it up a little more. Take both of these, bring them down. We're also going to take this and just scale it a little more. Cool. We're going to join them, and that way we've got another, another little doodad to go with. Next, I think I saw on here, yeah. Little guy has all of these little straps, which I think would do really well for possibly making a sash of some sort. So this one we can really, we're just going to move that to the layer with all of the rest of the Space Marine gear. This one also, because we're starting to run out of layers. You don't want that. So we'll move that just to the frontmost layer. And we're going to see what we're going to want to do with this exactly. It would be very Space Wolfy. It's not exactly, we're not quite going right off of what we have available, but giving him something like something that wraps around his arm there would be pretty cool. Oh, I forgot to, I'm just gonna call this one Skull Banner. And it looks like he got rid of its, yeah, and you can just search for Spine 3. There it is. Cool. And just gotta get that back into place. There we go. Cool. But this here, I think I'm going to do one where we build it off of his right forearm. Just kind of get it to look like it's wrapping around here. Honestly, let's looks like it'll have an easier time fitting stuff. Oop. Going that way. Cool. And I'm just just going to go into edit mode. Here, we're going to turn on some proportional editing. Just that way we can get it to kind of snap a little bit better. Yeah, look a little bit tighter on them. There we go. And this should now... Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, cool. That's what I was hoping for. So we are going to, from that, let's see what we can get for some good sorts of trinkets. I'd like to, as much as you can, it's really nice to pull, not combine too many different objects, because then you have to track down every one of those objects, or you know, every one of them on the texture file. So I could have actually done his straps instead, but I think we're just gonna go I'm gonna take that one and that one. And yeah. We're going to make this parented by the same one here. And we're going to separate these out. Do something like that so it looks like it's kind of hanging off there. And just try to get them to, like they're both kind of tied to it and then lashed together like that. And this one, I'm gonna set that origin to the geometry as well. Just do something like that. We don't want it to stick out too much because that'll start to look weird. And we'll duplicate it, scale it. Cool. And so now with all of that, that should all... Yeah, so that all deforms properly to the skeleton. Awesome. Cool. So that's a neat... Just going to join that all together. And move that over to that layer. And now I'm just going to go in and do a couple more of these, just to get it kind of sorted out. Alright, so with this little tuft here, this is all one part, so if I just hit L to select it, it's just going to choose his entire head, so we don't want that. So this isn't the most fun part, but what we're going to do is we are just going to go around, actually going to turn perspective on. Makes it a little bit easier to kind of skirt around this stuff. And we're just going to select all of it. There we go. And Control E to mess with the edge, and then choose Edge Split. There we go. Now we're just gonna select the faces, and now it lets us pick it separately. And so that should get us kind of where we want with that. And let's see, turn off proportional editing again. Make sure we've got everything here we want. Cool. All right, we're gonna move that one to, I think it's this layer. Yep. Cool. Before I forget, I'm just going to parent it. To the head. Down 180 degrees. This is going to also be smaller. And now that I'm doing it, I'm a little worried that it might start looking a little weird. But we're going to hope for the best. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to turn on proportional editing again. And we're just going to go through. Just going to kind of select I'm going to select everything below a certain point, and we're just going to kind of, to get it kind of to do that sort of swoosh that it does, I'm going to and we're just going to kind of keep doing that and working our way up as we go. So that way it's kind of gonna, should hopefully get sort of a smooth curve. And let's actually see if we can do, maybe we can do some, change the fall off to sharp, and that might just select the very end. Let's do something like that. I don't know about that. Yeah, it needs to, the problem is it basically just needs to, be falling a lot quicker. We're gonna take all of this. Just grab these bits at the end. There we go. That's kind of starting to look a little bit more right. Bring that in, make sure it's nice and put in there. Kind of looks like he has a silly hat on. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Gonna kind of bring it up a little bit. Cool. And I really do, I'm kind of hopeful with this that if we just do some stuff with it. Hopefully this will turn out okay. We're gonna join those. So it might look a little bit silly, but I think it should turn out pretty well. And this sash, normally a lot of time, I mean, if you were like making it for a game or something, we would actually like make sure it's all rigged up correctly and everything. But oh, I forgot to connect it. I just forgot to connect that to the bone there. But now it should be all good. But yeah, in this case, since this really isn't going to be animating or anything, we're just gonna pose it. I'm just gonna connect it to that bone there, and then we're gonna deform it to fit with what's going on. That way we can give it some really nice looking shape and everything too. So cool, now we've got all those set up. So the next step is to just basically build out our actual units. So what we're going to want to do here is for each individual model, I'm going to choose the pieces that I'm going to use for them, and then we're going to basically like outfit them how we want them, and then we are going to combine all of their textures into one, and that way it'll work in Tabletop Simulator. So first, all of them are going to have this body. So let's go through. Let's save it right there. We're going to go through. We're going to call this Unit 1. And now we're basically going to pick how each unit is going to look. So for this first one, I'm going to give him the assault helmet. Actually, for the first one, let's save the Tarkus one. I think that's Tarkus. Let's save his head for like our captain guy, just because it looks kind of like, he looks pretty heroic and leaderly. For the first guy, let's take this guy, because he's pretty wild looking. So I'm just going to go through, since I made a new save file, this is the Unit 1, so this is going to be our first unit. I'm going to move him over into here. Now we've got his head on there. He's looking wild. We don't need any of the other heads or anything, including this one. So I've just got the skeleton and his head. So for this guy, I'm going to give him this skull, and actually I think I'm just going to give him the skull, because I don't want to have too much repeating stuff. So we're going to delete that. I'm going to delete this. And we're going to delete that. So this will be our first unit. He's going to be a regular guy, so he's just going to have a chainsword and bolt pistol. So now we've got Unit 1 set up. So what we need to do now and I just want to double check, and nope, it is not. He is not he does not have a an armature built in for him. So we're going to choose we're going to add that in as a modifier. Oh, and I didn't actually, my mistake, you can't do that. We're going to have to go object mode, Control P, set parent to object, to armature deform with automatic weights. And that, I think, should probably do the job for us in this case. Nope, it's not going to do it. That's too bad. So we'll have to go in here. And we're going to have to, we're just going to have to weight paint him. So I'm going to delete that armature. That way we'll just do it ourselves. Control P. Ooh. Head first, skeleton second, Control P, with empty groups. There we go. So now we've still got all the groups in here. Now we're going to go into weight paint mode. I'm not going to worry about this too much because as long as he's not, you don't see like his neck sticking through or anything, I think we will be okay to just, there it is, there's his head. So we're just going to go object mode, choose head, choose assign. There we go, now it's all red. So it is totally assigned to his head now. Now if we rotate it, looks like he's still got some, there's the problem. For some reason it's tied to his shoulder pad a little bit. There we go. Now let's see how it does. It does better. You still got some stuff spacing around a little bit for some reason. But that'll work. Alright, so now we just need to get all of these materials put together. So we're going to first thing we're going to want to do, we're just going to need to go through and pick them all out. And this is really similar to what I've done in one of my other tutorials, but we're just gonna start. We're just gonna start like this. I'm gonna start with this one here as a base. We're gonna build just gonna make a new folder. And just put it all into let's see. Yeah, we have to unlock the background because, you know, you can't put a background in a folder. So there we go. This is going to be armor. And now we just need to go through, and first thing we will do is we're just going to take the backpack and the armor and put them together because we're not using the helmet for either of these. Also make this one no longer a background. Just grab all three of them, click and drag. After you hit V, go into selection mode. Just going to click and drag it in here. There we go. I'll put it all in a group. And we'll just call that backpack. Nice thing with that, now we can just select just the backpack and just move the whole thing around. Great. Next thing we're going to need is we're just going to need the we're going to need to go into the hobgoblin one and just get the skull out of there. We're going to need to get the chainsword and the bolt pistol and his head. So first, let's go in. Just gonna drop the hobgoblin one in there. And all we need from this one is just that right up there. Oddly, it looks messed up, so I'm going to just open it manually. Actually, I was going to just drag it over, but before I do that, all we need is this bit up here. So I'm actually going to just... There we go. Alright, so I'm actually just going to just hit V to grab it, and we're going to just drag it in. Alright. And last, my other tutorial that I did, we kind of just set everything up into squares and like made it work that way. In this one, I'm actually going to pull it all out. We're just gonna size it exactly to do it, to make it work, and then to just make it fit everything. And then we are going to adjust every texture to fit just by hand, and that way we're going to save a lot more space on here. So I just renamed this to skull, since that's the skull. The other ones that we're doing here, I'm gonna, before I forget, I'm gonna just save this because I don't want to end up getting all this stuff on top of this is just going to be called Blood Claw Unit 1. Great. So we've got that. I'm going to, for right now, just close all of these out because we don't need them and they are clogging up our space. So the next one we're just gonna grab the chainsword and bolt pistol because that uses the entire texture. So there's no cutting anything out or anything like that on that one. That'll be in the generic. Got the common chainsword there. And here's the bolt pistol. Drop that in there. And the last one is going to be Dwarf 6. And we'll go over to here, go to Dwarf 6. Yikes. And and there are just bits all over the place on this one. That is a real shame. Let's, when they do this, it makes kind of a challenge to actually put it into a new one. But, depending on how we resize this, it might still work. Let's pull it in first. Now we've got it right here. Drag it in. Wow, that is big. But good thing about that is this top right quadrant, I bet we can take his armor, put in the top right quadrant. I bet we can make everything fit into here. That's what I'm hoping to do. So we can actually, what I actually might end up doing instead of bringing it over here, I'm just gonna delete this layer real quick. Oh, that's not good. Cool, so actually instead of pulling this over here, or pulling this over to what we've got right here, since this one's already cropped correctly and everything, I'm actually going to take this, and we're just going to take everything, bring it over here. Yeah, because this texture file is so huge. Wow. That will actually make, honestly, it'll make things a lot quicker because we just have to move everything else just where there is no hair. So we're just gonna go down the line. And we'll just do that to the backpack. Great. A lot of wasted space here, but usually I don't worry about that too much when the original one takes up all that space and loads just fine. A lot of times I don't like expanding it too much, but this one should do just fine. We're just gonna save this as we're gonna overwrite that Blood Claw Unit 1. And yeah, it won't let me do it because it's right there. We're not gonna save it there. And we're gonna overwrite it on this one here. All right. And we're just going to save it as a PNG file. And we're going to do what we did in our previous tutorial. We're just going to go through. We're going to make a new one, a new material, and we're going to call it Unit 1. Now Unit 1 in the node editor is, oh, we haven't actually used that file yet, so switch it over to Bloodclaw Unit 1.png. Looks like Yeah, it looks like that did not give us any problems in terms of his head or anything. So that is good to see. And we're just gonna start just kind of eyeballing it. Bring it kind of into where it's supposed to be. And there we go. So that was not too bad. This one went pretty smoothly. And we're just scaling it in. Bring everything where it needs to be. Just gonna zoom in on that and make sure it looks all right. That looks good. And I'm just scaling it by 50% every time until it gets where it starts to look correct. There we go. That looks good. This one was actually the same size. So that was really quick. So we're just going to take all of these, Control J, and yep, they are all on the same material. So we did it. Now we've got them all combined. I'm going to take a break on this one, and we're going to go into part 3 in the next one. And for that one, we're actually going to pose him, set up his base, get him scaled correctly, and import him into Tabletop Simulator. And then from there, we'll just you know, combine some bits to do the other ones, kind of, you know, speed through the rest of it, and then we should have our actual Blood Claw full unit set up. So stay tuned for the next one. Thanks, guys.